I'd stepped down and the opportunity came available to come back to Pensacola. For me, it just made a lot of sense. Greg and I had great chemistry the first time we worked together, and I think that's probably one of the most important things as a head coach is having good chemistry with your owner. And, our goals align very well. It's about getting quality people, getting involved in the community, putting a winning product on the ice, and making sure we're engaged with our fan base. And so a lot of those things, we still hold very true, and that's what makes this organization very special. And, to see, what the rink looks like, it's the first time I've seen the championship banner I was a part of hanging, so that was kind of a special thing. To see the new Jumbotron and new screens, the upgrades around the rink is unbelievable. I think when I was here, we had 2 office staff people. Now we have a great, young, motivated team of people over there. They're doing great things for Greg, so he's got a great team going over there. So I think it's going to be an exciting season. We have a lot of returning players, which is very exciting for me. I think we have a lot of guys that are hungry to come back, that are motivated, guys that necessarily aren't happy with the way the season went last year. So they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder, and they understand the culture and what we expect here. And last year, we fell short on that. So we're looking forward to raising the bar and trying to set our standards a lot higher.
You talked about why you came back, and I'm wondering maybe how you're different, do you think, with the 10 years of intervening experience?
I had the privilege of coaching in Fort Wayne, which was, one of the toughest markets to coach in. We lead the league in attendance every year. You're coaching in front of 10, 11,000 fans, and the pressure to win is like no other. So it definitely develops your thick skin, and you got to be able to handle some heat. I remember my first year, I'm thinking I'm this young star coach coming up. I just won my first championship. I'm having a slow start in Fort Wayne, and my wife at that time is getting heckled in the stands as we lose, and I go to my office and I hear fans going, "Graham, go back to Pensacola." And it was tough that first year. Halfway through the season, we started winning. We were actually the second best team in the league, and that first year in Fort Wayne, we beat the defending champs. We almost swept them. We did something that had never been done in the ECHL's 28-year history. We were an 8 seed that upset a 1 seed, and from there, everybody believed in our program. And then we started getting the top quality players in year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we were able to really start doing something special, building up that culture where it fell off a little bit. They were second to last in the ECHL when I took over, so we were proud of the work we did in Fort Wayne. We fell short of winning a championship, which was disappointing because it was my hometown team. And Dan, to be honest with you, that was probably the only reason I left Pensacola, because I had so much fun here the first time was that. But the things I've learned is, you learn a lot as a coach. You're always growing. You make a lot of mistakes, and you learn from them, and you got to be able to move on. You got to have a short-term memory, just like I tell the players when they make mistakes. But working in Russia was a real eye-opener. Living in China during COVID, I mean, I have stories like you couldn't imagine. I could write a book, honestly, about the type of stuff that I was around. And coaching in juniors in the USHL, which is our top junior league. This is the best 17 to 20-year-old players in the country. Those players are young and hungry. They're all going, most of them are all going to the NHL, and working with young talent like that allowed me to teach, and ultimately that's what I love to do is to teach the game. And when you have a really receptive audience that's just like a sponge, and they just soak up everything you're giving them, and you're able to watch them take it on the ice and apply it and have success, and these kids come off with a big smile on their face, and they're fist pounding, that was a lot of fun. So I'm still the same fiery coach. You're going to see that on the bench. That's never going to change. I'll probably get myself into some trouble, but I have no assistant coach, so I got to make sure I don't get kicked out.
Coach, right here, Kate Thomas with ESPN Pensacola. Congratulations. I think a lot of people are excited to have you back, but you've talked about culture, and now your second stint here. Just what kind of culture do you want to build here, and what kind of impact do you want to make now that you're back here with Ice Flyers?
Good question, and nice to meet you. You're one of the new people here, so nice to meet you. Thanks for the question. I think we have a great thing going here. Obviously, what happens sometimes when you're up at the top, like Pensacola has been in the SPHL, sometimes you lose that dog in you. You lose that what that makes you kind of hungry every year. And that's not a knock on the past 2 years, but we've had 2 first-round exits, and what you've seen is the growth of Roanoke's program, the growth of Birmingham's program, Peoria consistently being good. Huntsville has had a core group of guys that's been a tough team now for the last 5 years. Their team's going to look a lot different this year. But with that being said, we have to get that hunger back. We were the hunted for a long time here. When you win 3 championships, every team is building their team during the summer, focus on beating Pensacola. We have to get back to that mentality where we have to be now the ones that's hunting. And I think that's one thing that we talked a lot to the players this summer is just we got to get that fight and that dog back in us and kind of act like, we're that dog in the corner kind of pinned in and people don't respect us. Like that's the way we have to act anymore. And I think it's easy in Pensacola when you're living on the beach to get a little soft and get a little complacent. It's paradise here, let's be real. So I think that's the one thing with the leadership group that we got to make sure that we do is really get that hunger back in us, and I look forward to seeing how they respond to that.
Hi, Gary. Bill Valono with IceFlyers.com, and congratulations again on coming back. And I wondered, you brought this up briefly, but when you did walk into the arena the first time, whenever that was, having not been here, you looked up and you saw that banner that your team won. That was the first championship banner in hockey history here. What were the emotions of that, seeing it and then, reinforcing that, hey, now I'm back here?
It was exciting. It was exciting seeing that, and obviously the ones next to it too, because I was really excited for the organization and for Rod to kind of continue, where I left off. But I think the one thing is when you've had these championships, and Greg Harris as your owner, he wants another one. He's really hungry. So, we got to make sure that we try to get back to that. It's not going to happen overnight. We have a lot of work to do. This league's a lot different than when I was here, a lot of different teams. And I think the quality of player through the league's a lot better, too. I think the quality of play, personally, is a lot better, too. So I'm excited to learn the player pool. I've watched a ton of film this year. But honestly, Bill, as a coach, I can watch a lot of film. But once you see them live and in person, you don't get a feel for anything. So, getting kind of through the schedule and starting to see these teams live and in person and understand, okay, this is the type of caliber player on this team. This is what's making them go. Do we have these type of players? What do we need? I try to usually divide the season up in threes. I think the first third of the season, I always tell my guys it's more of a player assessment side. It's really where I'm looking to see what guys I really want to go into the second half of the season with. Are they buying into the culture? Are they doing the little things? Are they putting the extra work in? Do they fit the way that I want to play systematically? But, we have a lot of returning guys, and I did the film work on these guys, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they're ready to play a more up-tempo, faster, more aggressive style. But that means their conditioning is going to have to be a lot better, too. And so we've been talking to them about that this summer, so we'll see what kind of shape they're in.
Coach Ben Greco from the PNJ. So you mentioned, you had seen them playing while you were gone, and you mentioned a friendship with Rod Aldoff. How quickly did you know when Rod resigned again that you wanted to come back to Pensacola?
So Rod surprised Greg and I because I talked to Rod a lot, and I was shocked that I found out, not from him, but through, the press, and so I gave him a little bit of crap about that. But the thing was, I think he just wanted to do it on his own terms, and I know what Rod's going through because, I was fortunate enough during COVID when I was coaching in China, we didn't have that second season, and my son was about the same age as Rod's boy right now, and as coaches, we miss our boys' hockey season every year. I'd never seen my son play. I watch him online, but you miss your son growing up pretty much in the wintertime, around during the summertime, but Rod's been missing that, and we talk about that as friends, missing his boy and kind of getting back around home and stuff like that. So I was able to get a season like that during COVID and actually be around my boy and coach him, and it was very enjoyable. And I told him when he started to talk about it a little bit, loosely, is that it is important. He's in high school now. Sometimes these boys, they need their dad a little bit around, and I think he felt it was time. And as soon as I heard about it, honestly, right away, I reached out to Greg, right away, because I didn't know what I was doing yet. My agent had some deals overseas and some countries, frankly, I didn't feel like living in, and I was just like, you know what, let's go back to where it all started for me. I know Greg, he knows me. He's going to let me do my thing. He's going to trust in my decisions. And again, like I said, going back to Dan's question initially, is it's so important when you have that synergy with your owner where he knows you and you know him, and kind of you can work through problems, because the thing about the SBHL is there's so many ups and downs during the season. You never know what you're getting on week to week, and you have to be able to problem solve quickly. And to have an owner that's there to kind of work through those problems, that knows hockey. He knows the business side obviously very well, but he's also a hockey guy too, which makes it easier. So.
Gary, Paul Chestnut, Fox Sports, Pensacola, the Fan. Couple questions for you. One, when you won that championship, I'm just curious, first time you were here, everything happened so fast. Next thing you know, it was like you got the job in Fort Wayne. One, did you expect that? Did you expect it to happen so quick through that process? And maybe, talk about the style of play on the ice this year, and if you want to share some players that you definitely know that are going to be in training camp at the beginning of the year for the team.
Okay, good question. The first one, I think a lot of people probably don't know how it all went down with going from the championship to Fort Wayne right away. I got a call almost like 2 days after we won a championship from my owner in Fort Wayne. Like I said, I was there as an assistant. And he wanted me to go put scouting reports together. The ECHL playoffs were taking off, and Reading was playing the Florida Everblades. And he said, listen, I'll pay you per diem. I'll pay you this amount of money. I want you to go drive there and stay there through the week, and I'll get a hotel for you. And I just want you to basically scout for us and do player personnel files. So that was their first year in the ECHL. They just finished second to last. They didn't have a good season. They realized that they made a lot of – they didn't know the league, basically, and they needed to get some scouting work done. So I said, sure, I'll go do that. So I drove there, and I met the owner, Craig Brush. That's a legendary owner. They just won back-to-back ECHL championships. He's top-notch in the ECHL. And the Florida Everblades are always one of the best teams in the league. And the weird thing was, and I did not know I was getting interviewed for the Fort Wayne Comet job at this point, but it started with actually Craig Brush, who's friends with the Frankies and obviously has a lot of say in things. He brought me into his office. I didn't even know I was going to be meeting him. And it was like right before the game I was there to scout, and he brought me up there. He wanted to introduce me. And he sits me down in his office, and he starts asking me questions almost as if he was interviewing for his job. And I was like, I was answering all the questions, tactics, strategies, all this stuff like that. But when I left there, I'm like, well, that was really weird. I didn't really understand why that was going on. But I continued to scout, through that weekend, sent all my profiles to the Frankies. And then the Frankies said, well, listen, now I want you to go to Cincinnati. And Reading had beat Florida, and Reading was playing in Cincinnati. And so I went and did that one, and I sent all the files. And I guess I did a good enough job with all that stuff where the Frankies then told me that Al Sims was retiring, and they wanted to interview me for the head coaching job. And so that's kind of how it all started happening pretty quickly. And then in regards to the style of play, I'd say again, this is an entertainment business. You have to understand as a head coach, the fans, you need players with personality. You need players that are going to perform, but you also need players that are characters with personality too. And guys that are physical, You need guys that are going to look the part. All these things matter when you're assembling a team, and playing fast and playing exciting, I think, is very important. I do think that the team last year, I think we have an opportunity to play a little bit faster style with this group. We're going to try to do that early on and see how it goes. But, more physical for sure. The power play was exciting last year, but again, 5-on-5 offensively, I didn't like what we did a lot last year. We didn't possess the puck enough. And we have a lot of skilled guys, but we didn't have the puck on our sticks enough. So, Paul, I'd tell you this is look for us to be more of a puck possession team. That's really what my teams are known for. If you look at the analytics of my teams, typically we're the team that possesses the puck more. And when you possess the puck more, you're going to draw more power plays. You're going to dictate momentum. You're going to dictate the terms of how the game's played more. So that's probably what you can expect from us. We have 8 guys right now that are going to ECHL camps that we have signed, just so everybody knows. So we have 8 players right now. In camp, we're bringing in 12 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 3 goalies. That's what we're bringing into camp, okay? And then we also have the 8 guys that are signed that are going to be in ECHL camp. So really, we have about 30 guys that are signed. So, obviously, there's some exciting news that we'll talk about. Our captain is coming back. So Garrett Milan is coming back. So that's very exciting. Whenever you can have your leader, a top 3 scorer in the league, come back, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he really wants to really lead this group this year, that's very exciting. And then, Brad Arvanitis came in last year for Rod Aldoff and did a great job. I think we can all attest to that. Their goaltending struggled a little bit last year. I think at one point in the season, Rod and I were talking at Christmas time Pensacola Ice Flyers, I think, were the highest scoring team in the league. They had the best power play in the league, and they were sitting at 6th in the league in standings. Those numbers don't usually work that way. So, yeah, obviously you can look at something right there, right? So I think when Arvanitis came in, it really settled things in. And, he's right now the Rangers, New York Rangers, signed, Arvanitis, I don't know if you guys know this, to a PTO. Their ECHL affiliate is Maine, so he's signed in Maine. But we signed him first during the summer, so not only is he a protected player, but we also own his rights. So if he does not make an ECHL team, we would expect to see him unless he gets picked up, and that's the name of the game, right? So,
Gary, I think one of the biggest changes since you were here 10 years ago is the building itself with the video boards, the job that Alyssa and Brendan have done, and others on the staff in creating the game atmosphere and making this a whole different kind of experience. I'm curious did you see any video of some of their games and maybe get a glimpse of what the vibe is? They had, what was it, Brendan? How many crowds over 4,000 last year? Like 20? Something like that. That's really, really, I think it was many ways the best year for all of the game atmosphere elements. And how big of I guess, enjoyment will that be for you to see the vibe in the building?
I'm excited. They're going to surprise me, they said on opening night. I keep hearing I'm going to be very impressed about the game atmosphere. When I watch the games live on TV, it's hard to tell that stuff. I like the wiener dog race. I mean, that's the one thing I like. I think I've seen that. That I'm a dog guy, so I love that. But you don't get to see a lot of that stuff like what they're doing on the content per se from where I'm watching it from afar on whatever it was, Flow Sports last year. I forget what it was on. I would watch the games. But anyways, the product is going to be really good, and I know how good the staff is too. Like I said, I think we had 2 people here before that worked in the front office, and now we have a crew of really young, hungry, talented people that are good in their own individual field and what they do. And so you got to tip your hat to Gray he's good at finding talent, and he's good at developing talent, and that's what a good owner does. He allows them to kind of bring new ideas. And I always call Greg, he's like the merchandising ninja of the SBHL. This guy, we have more jerseys, more colors, more, it's like the Sherwin-Williams of colors in my locker room or something. It's just like, but he knows that that's important. It's the atmosphere, it's what you're putting on the ice. And my favorite last year was the Bushwhacker jersey because that's my go-to drink. So I like those, and I like the jersey even better. So I thought that was a really cool, and I can't wait for the Blue Angel night. Those jerseys look unbelievable. So, yeah, it's exciting. The Jumbotrons, the 2 screens in the corner, the new screen, it just looks like a different arena to me, and I'm excited to go back to your original question to coach in here. And I guess the first chance I'll see that, just so everybody knows, is we actually have an exhibition game we're going to talk about. So for you guys, October 13th, Friday, here at 7 o'clock against Birmingham. There's only, I think, 3 exhibition games in the whole league, believe it or not, and we're one of them. So Birmingham's coming here on Friday, October 13th at 7 o'clock, just so everybody knows, and we'll start doing tickets tomorrow.
You mentioned, players are reporting soon, but have you had any specific conversations with players that they're just chomping to get at the bit for opening night, getting ready for training camp, and just getting back at it?
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement for sure. I think, the one thing I can tell you how excited guys are, and I won't mention a name, but, there was a player that I had an ECHL camp spot for that I fought hard to get him because I believe in him. I think he's got a lot of high-end talent. And this is the first time I've ever heard this, mind you, and I've coached a long time. He said, I don't want that. I'm hungry to get to Pensacola and play for you. That's what my focus is. So, that was pretty exciting to hear, So when you're hearing that from guys that are hungry like that to get going, you hope it obviously translates and correlates, through the whole group and into the training camp. But I think the one thing, talking to the group from last year, is that, we're going to be back living closer. Last year our team was split a little bit in terms of housing. We're going to be a lot tighter knit team. We're going to be closer together. We're going to do a lot more team building exercises off the ice. That's a big thing that I like to do with my teams because, to me, the teams that win on the ice are the ones that do things together off the ice.
And Coach, between your experience and now the ECHL and junior hockey, how much of a market can you tap, if you're looking for guys where you have coaches connections or agent connections with certain players that you can bring in those types of names and they already know who you are?
Yeah, the agents for sure. That's been my sweet spot for sure because I've always cultivated good relationships. I think the one thing that I have to do a better job of is just getting back the college coaches when I was here that you're recruiting for at this level. It's a lot of the smaller D1 schools and the D3 programs where when I was in Fort Wayne and overseas, I was recruiting a lot higher end guys. So you're dealing with different agents and different coaches. And the coaches have changed a lot. So, like, I've been doing a lot of new networking with a lot of new coaches and getting my hooks in the guys. I think and Rod's been great at helping me with that. He's been sending me a lot of contacts and kind of setting the table. We were actually up in Minnesota for my son's hockey tournament last week, and there was a bunch of college scouts there scouting the junior league that my son plays in, and Rod was up there, and he introduced me to like 5 coaches that we've gotten players from. So, a lot of exchange of business cards and networking and saying, hey, listen, I was sending Rod guys, now I'm going to send you guys. I said, that's music to my ears. Here's my card. So